prime time on the top game, it's a fine line. Man in the match, that's Dave. He's the main guy, keep a close eye. Make sure you don't make no wrong play, cause I'm with Jose and Andre. When Cyrus comes to walk in, you better know that you are watching Premier League. Dave, tell him what time we on. Prime time. Let me hear you say Premier League. Dave, tell him what time we on. Prime time.
Hello and welcome to Premier League Primetime Season 3, Episode 4, and of course, we are back. The channel's been dead for a little while, but we're back. I finally have some time. We all finally have some time, and the Premier League is coming to a pause, and we're excited to not only, of course, bring you the usual Premier League news going around the league, but to give you a World Cup themed preview as well. So this will be quite interesting, although we have so much to get through, so much to talk about. But of course, as per usual, I am joined, of course, by the rest of the Fab Four, of course, Andre, Sirius, and Jose. Sirius has gone MIA for a minute. I don't know where he is, but he'll turn up at some point. I'm not going to ask the question because I know how that's going to end up. Anyways, let's start with Arsenal, right? Top of the league. I'm
good. How are you?
By Christmas.
I'm doing okay as well, Davis.
I cannot be asked. The one time I decide to skip over it, of course I get greeted with "How are you?" Unbelievable. And well, I'm doing well at the moment. And I'll assume that you are doing well at all. And Andre is now disappeared as well. But anyways, let's get right into it. We have a lot to go. We have a lot to discuss and talk about. Let's just get right into this, starting with Arsenal. Of course, normally Sirius would be here, but unfortunately he is not. They are top of the league. They will be top of the league by Christmas. Taking a look at their past 5 games, win against Leeds, a draw against Southampton, and wins against Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and Wolves. Scores and ratings from Mikel Arteta and standout players on a positive side and a negative side. I'll throw this one out to anyone.
Yeah, I can do it. So I mean, it's hard to say anything bad about Arsenal right now. I can speak the best about the Chelsea game because I watched that one from the stands, and it was that they were definitely the better team. Chelsea fans were really disappointed with their team's performance at the end of it. It was a lot of just possession from Arsenal, Chelsea defending. Chelsea weren't able to create anything at all, really. I was really impressed with the way Arsenal could defend.
I watched that game as well.
Yeah, the goal a bit lucky with it bouncing across, but you take what you can get. And honestly, Arsenal should have scored with at least 2 other opportunities. I think it was Martinelli who might have gotten in one time in behind, who should have scored, but he didn't. But I was impressed with Arsenal in that game. I think I wasn't expecting them to win. I thought that Chelsea's defense would keep this game to at least a draw, but they got the goal, and I can only commend them for that. I think that they'll be a little disappointed with the Southampton game. I think they could have gotten more from that, but they didn't. I mean, standout players, there's really not too many negatives at all. I'm just going to focus on the positives. I would say, off the top of my head, Odegaard obviously has been carrying them with his goals. Saka's been doing really well. Martinelli has been getting involved as well.
Oh, wait. Pardon the interrupt, but guess who's arrived? He's arrived. The one and only Sirius. You have arrived just in time. We were about to do Arsenal without you. But coming back to you, since you are now here, since you have now appeared. Sirius, taking a look at Arsenal's past 5 games. A win against Leeds, a draw against Southampton, and wins against Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and Wolves. You will be top of the league come Boxing Day. Scores and ratings from Mikel Arteta and standout players from a positive spectrum and a negative spectrum.
Yeah, guys, sorry I was late dealing with some Wi-Fi issues, one would say. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any negatives, to be honest. We've been amazing. extremely happy to finish first before the World Cup. It's just about continuing that after the World Cup. Something I do worry about with us is our squad depth. We haven't had any injuries, and that's like a big part. I don't know if our subs really cut it right now, to be honest. I'm not convinced really on any of them, but the introduction of ESR again, he's back fit. Apparently, he's gonna be working. I think they're training Dubai this during the World Cup, the players that aren't in the World Cup. So he's back. That's gonna be crucial. But yeah, positives. Xhaka, I have to say again, our player of the month yet again. I think Reece Nelson, shout out to him, scoring two goals a couple games ago. Maybe he can introduce something off the bench. But yeah, there's literally everyone has been great. I think our only bad result was against Southampton. I think we definitely should have won that game. But besides that, yeah, 10 out of 10.
I think a player that I think you miss, I think Thomas Partey has been.
Yeah, him too.
You can see when he gets back a consistent run of games without injury, you can see how important he is to that side. Like when you see Arsenal without Thomas Partey, they look like a completely different side than they do when they do have a fully fit and raring to go Thomas Partey. He's so important to that Arsenal midfield, and he's been outstanding this season. He's been great. And as you said, Arsenal deserve to be where they are. They deserve to be top of the league. They deserve it in terms of the games and the teams that they've played. You can only play who's in front of you. And they've done well in taking those games. By the scruff of the neck. Next, into Aston Villa. Now, I was mentioning earlier before that it's quite interesting. When you look at their 6 games, right? They have had 3 different managers, and they've all had 2 games each. It's kind of funny and interesting when you look at it. Of course, you have Steven Gerrard, who obviously, after losing 3-0 to Fulham, got the sack, and let's not forget losing 2-0 to Chelsea. Aaron Danks coming in as the caretaker for a few games, comes in, wins 4-0 at home against Brentford, but then loses by the same scoreline against Newcastle, and then he goes off, and Unai Emery comes in. Unai Emery, the new manager of Aston Villa, gets his spell at Aston Villa underway with 2 straight wins, 3-1 against Manchester United and 2-1 against Brighton. Let's forget the managers for now because it's a lot of managers to go through. Just overall scores and ratings for Aston Villa from 1 to 10, and players that have stood out to you on a negative side and a positive side.
Yeah, it's been very up and down in this run of games. I think they're looking really good under Emery in these first 2 games. I've liked the way they've defended and the way that they've pressed. I think that they played really well against us, obviously, with the 3-1 win. I liked what I saw from them in that game. They're looking annoying, like the Villarreal of old. So they'll be a tough team to face now, which is upsetting because Villa usually you think of as someone you can win against, but with Emery you never know. So I would give Gerrard probably like a 2 out of 10. I mean, he lost both games pretty abysmally. Aaron Danks, I mean, 4-0 win against Brentford, and then
loses 4-0 to Newcastle.
Loss against Newcastle. So I guess I'll give him a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess.
And then Emery, I'll just give a 9 out of 10 because I mean he's been fantastic so far. Stand-up players, I would say the person who stood out the most to me, especially in our game, is Jacob Ramsey. But he was fantastic.
Oh, he was brilliant. I mean, Jacob Ramsey's been a brilliant prospect for Villa now for the past 2 seasons, 3 seasons now. He's been outstanding. Brilliant young player. I rate him very highly. And I think a player who's just recently has come to life more so than I'd seen just since he signed. I'd say Leon Bailey. In that 4-0 win against Brentford, played very well. But specifically in that 3-1 win against Manchester United, he tore Luke Shaw apart. And he was dominating that right-hand side. He was having the time of his life. He was brilliant in that game. Danny Ings as well. He scored 2 goals against Brighton as well. And I always mention him. I always mention Ollie Watkins. I like Ollie Watkins for whatever reason. Just whenever a new manager comes in, he just goes off. He just all of a sudden picks up some really good form. Ollie Watkins. And I liked what I saw from him, not only against Manchester United, but I also think that against Brentford as well, he was very good. But specifically, I just want to talk about Unai Emery, right? Of course, there were different options that Villa were looking at. Do you think Unai Emery was the right, not necessarily the right selection? Because one can say, yeah, they're winning 2 games on the bounce. Do you think that there could have been a better candidate for the job, or do you think Unai Emery ticks every single box that Aston Villa needs, a match made in heaven?
No, I mean, you think about Aston Villa, you think about a club like Villarreal, and then you think about a club like, let's say, Arsenal. And you say that that Aston Villa would want to get to the level that Emery took Villarreal to. So I think that in that sense, he is a perfect appointment, because I think that he can take them there, and he will take them there. And he already is looking like he probably will. So I think that it was definitely a good appointment by them.
Yeah, I can definitely understand in the Aston Villa owners' desire to be ambitious. I mean, you look at who they've signed in the summer. You know, they signed Coutinho for 20 million. They signed Diego Carlos, you know, a well-respected center back in Europe, playing for Sevilla. They've signed players like Luca Digne as well, very good left back as well. So they have signed some serious talent. I mean, Baboukou Kamara, very good young player from Marseille, great midfielder. I rate him very highly. He's a great player. So they've made some good signings, and I think Gerrard's sacking, in my opinion, was justified, because when you look at that squad and you're seeing how poorly they were doing, I just don't think he could have lasted much longer in the form that they were in, and with the players he had at his disposal. I mean, I'll throw the question out to the rest of you. Do you think Steven Gerrard's sacking was justified, or do you think maybe a little more time should have been given?
It's a tough one. I think we all thought when he came in that he would be the man to take Villa forward, just because they have all the resources to progress. They have the money, the stadium, they have Premier League football. But yeah, he has underperformed, and I think it's a tough one because there are a number of managers that have now struggled at Villa. But if I'm the Villa board, I'm thinking that I want to keep switching manager until I find like a really good fit to take the club forward. And Gerrard just seemed like a huge project, even though I think they already have a solid squad. I thought Gerrard would come in and just fill some missing pieces, but it wasn't that at all. So we'll see. I'm not sure Emery's the man to take them forward either, but yeah, I'd say it was justified, but it still feels harsh.
That's fair.
I would,
And he was
I would,
moving.
can I jump in really
Yeah.
quick to this?
Sure, go
I
for
would
it.
say I would say that one of the hardest things in football is to get a bunch of new players in the summer when you're a club like at Villa's level. You look at what happened with Nottingham Forest this season, how they're sitting at the bottom of the league, and they just brought in like 20 players last season. And I think that it's really, really difficult to get a bunch of new players to play exactly the way you want them to play in just like how many games did he play? 12, I think, in the Premier League. So I think he had a really hard job this season, and I think that if they wanted it to work, they would have really had to wait probably at least another year and a half for him to really get the players to play how he wants them to. And is that really worth it? Would they have maybe gone relegated in that time? I don't know. So I mean, for me, I think it was probably justified, especially since they knew they could probably get Unai Emery.
That's fair.
It's true because you look at it stylistically, and Gerrard and Dean Smith. I mean, those are just very different styles of football.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Anyways, moving into Bournemouth next, they have not been on the best run of form in comparison to last episode when they were unbeaten, and now they have suffered some losses, not horrific losses, but they have suffered some, tastes of defeat. They drew Fulham though at the start of their run of 6 games, and then losses to Southampton, West Ham, and then losing to Tottenham and Leeds just by 1 goal, 3-2, 4-3 respectively, and then an emphatic 3-0 win against Everton this past weekend. Scores and ratings for Gary O'Neill and standout players on both on a positive side and a negative side.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth they don't look like a disjointed side. They look like they're in it together, but it's hard to back Bournemouth going into any match this season. And they're playing that way. They play very aggressively. At times they kind of remind me of a Burnley back when Burnley was in the league. Yeah, I think they're really aggressive. I think their squad doesn't seem like a Premier League competing squad. It just feels they're definitely fighting relegation. But you've got to say that they're still finding a decent amount of goals. Like that partnership of Solanke and Kiefer Moore is pretty decent. Tavinia's still been creative. Patrick Billing's been decent in that attacking mid above the double pivot. But yeah, it's still Bournemouth, and until that commanding win against Everton, it was just it wasn't good enough for the Premier League. So I'd probably give Gary O'Neill and the team about like a D, maybe a 5 or a 4 if we're going 1 to 10. But
Sure.
yeah.
And before moving into Brentford, there has been strong rumors that Marcelo Bielsa has been tipped as the man to take over at Bournemouth. Apparently he's open and willing to go to the South Coast and take over Bournemouth. Do you see this as the right fit or a good fit? And I'll throw this question out to not just Andre, but to Sirius and Jose as well. Do you see Marcelo Bielsa fitting in at a club like Bournemouth?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I was looking at in preparation for this. I was just looking at I looked up hashtag Bournemouth on Twitter, and I was just reading news, and that was one of the ones I saw. Bielsa. Yeah. I don't think it's a good fit. I don't. It's such a. I wouldn't have associated the two of them at all. I don't think it's a good fit at all. Not with the individuals they have. I don't think it's a good fit for Bielsa. They have such a limited amount of resources, but that could be interesting because Bielsa has flourished in that. But yeah, I don't see it happening.
That's fair. Moving into Brentford, and we take a look at Brentford's past run of games, and in comparison to their prior runner games in last episode when they were doing quite poorly, Sears saying very well that they were lacking goals. They look better. Taking a look at this, winning 2-0 against Brighton, drawing 0-0 against Chelsea, losing 4-0 to Aston Villa. That's the only loss that they suffered in this run of games. Draws against Wolves and Nottingham Forest, and a win against Manchester City at the Etihad this past weekend. Scores and ratings for Thomas Frank and standout players both on a negative side and a positive side. And we know Ivan Toney's going to be the first one.
Yeah, much better from Brentford. I think Brentford the last 2 years have surprised a lot of people. I think when they first came into the Premier League last year, a lot of people, I don't know necessarily you guys predicted that they wouldn't do well. And they've just been constantly impressing, like 10th place. That's very good. There's last couple of games were hard games, Chelsea, Man City, and they've been very impressive. Still, the same thing I'm going to say is that the goals are coming from one man for the most part. And if he drops off, then that's going to be a big issue. Against Nottingham Forest, they weren't from him, but the rest of the games, yes. So, Ivan Toney's been great. I feel like his game against Man City was a response to him not making the English team.
100%.
I think, they're going to have to find goals from other people. And, Mbuemo. Is that how I say? I don't know how to say his
And
name.
Bumo.
Yeah. He got a goal against Nottingham Forest. I think people like him need to step up. I think Ben Mee has also been decent. And I have liked Brentford's left back Henry for a couple
Rico
years.
Henry.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'd give Brentford a 7.58. Honestly, considering the schedule they had, beating Man City is no easy task, that's for sure. Also helping the Gunners. So yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And a player who's recently he's been finding somewhat of a run of games. Frank Onyeka, the defensive midfielder. He's come in and he's looked a player. And I've always rated this player highly. I've always liked the look of this player. And he's come in and he's done a job. And I think he's now done it I think he's played in 3 consecutive games. I could be wrong. But he's had a run of games. We're starting to have a run of games, and he's just looking more and more and more impressive. So I also have to throw him in there as well. Next, of course, moving into the one and only Brighton Munich, and hopefully, or not to say hopefully, but they're looking as if they're slowly but surely regaining that Brighton Munich status. I don't think losing 2-0 to Brentford helps very much. A draw against Nottingham Forest, losing 3-1 to Manchester City, a 4-1 win against Chelsea, a 3-2 win against Wolves, and losing 2-1 against Aston Villa. Scores and ratings for Roberto De Zerbi and standout players both on a negative side and a positive side.
Yeah, they still look good. For me, I have to say right off the bat, Leandro Trossard sticks out.
As always.
Yeah, as always, but this season for me, he's taken his game to a different level. I think he's an incredible player. I really want to see him starting for Belgium at the World Cup. I think he could really do a job on the left for them. I would say to rate, I would say it's really mixed, but they've had a tough run of games, and a 4-1 victory against Chelsea is very good for them. So I would give him a 7 out of 10. Standout players, I already said Trossard, but you can also talk about Caicedo. Adam Lallana's even been showing up to a few more games as well. There's really not too much on the negative side for them from them. I think they're still playing quite well. It's just difficult for them to be. They're not as consistent as they were when Graham Potter was still there. But I did recently see that Chelsea have taken
Yes.
right have taken Brighton's manager,
Mhm.
assistant manager, all the coaching staff, and then also their head of recruitment. So you just have Chelsea raiding Brighton, and then Brighton are still winning 4-1 against them, which is funny.
I do find that quite amusing as well. I think a player that you missed out though, and he's 100% deserved his place in the Argentina squad. Alexis McAllister has been absolutely brilliant as well this season. The kid's a player, great player, quality player. He's been playing very well this season, consistently as well, for the most part, and he just keeps getting better and better, every game. Next, of course, into Chelsea, the one and only Andre's soul and one and only love Chelsea. We take a look at Chelsea and the games that they've played. A win against Aston Villa, a draw against Brentford, a draw against Manchester United, which I still cannot understand how we only got a point out of that. I cannot understand that. And then losses against Brighton, Arsenal, Newcastle, which I've watched those 3 games in particular, and it was not looking great for Chelsea. Scores and ratings for Graham Potter and standout players, both on the positive side and the negative side. And I think there can be quite a few on the negative side.
Yeah, that definitely the weakest side of the top 6 at the moment. I think at points tally, they're closer to bottom than top right now. It's a tough one for Chelsea. They have looked pretty dreadful in recent matches, and I've seen a lot of memes about some of the squad selection. They had a front line of it was like Broja, Havertz, and Mount or something, and someone said that front line wouldn't survive in League One, which might be true. it's a tough one because I'm a huge Graham Potter fan, and I and already his job is being talked about, but I still think Potter's the man to take that club forward because I think Chelsea have
Well, of course,
huge,
they'll give him time. He's only just come into
yeah,
a club.
yeah, because I think Chelsea have had huge systemic issues dating back to like Mauricio Sarri. They haven't had a stylistically football that's appealing and bringing them results. So I think they still had issues with Thomas Tuchel, but they were a lot safer and they looked a lot more solid and defensively. And now they're just constant vulnerabilities all over the pitch at Chelsea. It's so much good with so much bad all the time. Yeah, I think individually, I know Jose will. Raheem Sterling's not been great. The few minutes that he's gotten, I even seen fans complaining
Don't get him
about.
started. Don't get him started on Raheem Sterling. But in this run of games, he's not looked good. He's not looked good. And I like Raheem Sterling, but he has not looked good.
I've even seen fans. I've even seen fans complain about Thiago Silva at the back, just looking.
He's been their best player,
I
arguably.
will say the only player that the Chelsea fans have chanted. I've been to a few Chelsea games this season. The only player whose name is chanted is Thiago Silva. They do the Thiago Silva all the time.
Muffled.
They at least the fans in the stadium, maybe fans online that you've seen.
Yeah,
Not-
I'm on
but-
toxic football Twitter.
But if I may interject, a quick thing about Chelsea is like they have so many problems right now. Like Mount doesn't. I feel like Mount doesn't know where to play. I feel like they play him on the left. Sometimes they play him on the right. Sometimes they play him in the middle, and he never gets consistent time in one area. I think they signed a bunch of center backs this season, but they're somehow still all injured. They're still playing Chalaba at the back.
Apparently, they're in talks to sign another center back.
Yeah, I know.
January,
I know.
Summer.
I think their only saving grace would be if they can get Nkunku. He would be great for them. But I still their midfield, they're playing Loftus Cheek, who like maybe he would be good in the championship, but like not in the Premier League. I mean, I rated him a few seasons ago, but this season, I mean, he's done nothing. They can't control the game. They in the games that I've been to, they can't control the game. They can't create chances. They play Armando Broja up front, who I don't even know if he's a good winger, and they're playing him as a striker.
He is a striker, to be fair.
Surprises me.
Loftus-Cheek is a squad player as well. Like he's been playing a lot of
He can't
games.
do a job. In the game I went to, he was no striker. He was not doing anything a proper striker should do. He was playing like a right midfielder playing as a striker.
I mean, he is a young kid. He will learn his trade. I mean, the alternatives to that. I mean, Chelsea don't have a lot of options at striker right now.
I know that's the biggest problem.
Either Aubameyang, or you have Broja, or you can go with the strategy that always works. You could always throw Kai Havertz up front, which we have seen this season.
I think
definitely worked.
I think that's their best strategy, honestly. I think Aubameyang is so bad. Aubameyang is so bad, and so is Broja up front.
I think regardless, they need a striker, just regardless.
I agree.
That that's their system better, if you're asking me. Then just to quickly move through Chelsea for me, I think when you like at this current moment in time, when I think all right, players to be excited to get behind: Thiago Silva, Reece James up until his injury, Trevor Chalobah, Jorginho's been hit and miss as always.
Oh, Kepa was amazing when he was fit.
Kepa came in for a few games, and you got to give it to Kepa. I mean, he basically I'd say he won Chelsea that game against Aston Villa. He won them that game. Even not for Kepa, they would have conceded probably 4 or 5 goals. So he was brilliant that game. Yeah, one has to hand it to him. Cucurella's been okay. Lewis Hall, a youngster, he's come in, came in against Newcastle and was an 18-year-old, was the best player on the pitch for Chelsea. An 18-year-old. Showed up the rest of the senior team players, which is it's not looking great for Chelsea right now. I do have to say. Anyways, to keep it moving and to quickly move forward into Crystal Palace now. For Crystal Palace, it's been more good than bad, but relatively mixed. Draw against Leicester, a win against Wolves, a loss against Everton, wins against Southampton and West Ham, and then a loss to Nottingham Forest. Scores and ratings for Patrick Vieira and standout players on a negative side and a positive side.
Yeah, pretty decent to be honest. I think 3 wins, 2 draws, and a tie. I think Zaha has been on form again. Always with Zaha, he has the class. It's just about the attitude, um, work ethic. But they've Crystal Palace. I feel like they're kind of like a stagnant team. Like, I feel like they're always going to be in the Premier League. It's just about what they want to do. I think if they're happy with what they're doing, like 10th, 11th, it's fine. But some players that I kind of want more from, or that I've seen their potential as a player, like Eze. He scored a couple of games ago, but I feel like there's more from him to come. When I do watch him, like against Arsenal, he was very good. They've had similar players for the last couple of years. I think Anderson in the back is very good. He also played very good against us.
Anderson's great.
I don't know. I'm not too convinced on James Ward. I feel like he's been there a while. I'm not too convinced on him when I watch him, but if I had to say a player, but overall I'd give it a 7. 3 wins, 2 draw, 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. Not bad at all. And I think Zaha's been on form recently.
That's fair. A team that it's really not looking great for again. Everton. We look at the run of games, losses against Tottenham and Newcastle respectively, a 3-0 win against Crystal Palace, a 0-0 draw with Fulham, and then losses against Leicester, hammered by Bournemouth. Scores and ratings for Frank Lampard and standout players, both on a positive and negative side.
Yeah, it's I remember about, I can't remember, maybe a month and a half ago when we did this show last time, Everton were on a good run of form, and then now it's just totally taking another downhill turn. You do have to question if Frank Lampard is going to face a similar fate to Steven Gerrard this season. I mean, we said it at the beginning of the season, but I mean, we'll see. Maybe he can turn it around. But for this run, I would say I would give him maybe a 3 out of 10. The winning against Crystal Palace being his only real saving grace there. Otherwise, yeah, that's all I got for Everton.
100%. And in regards to players, I think if not for Jordan Pickford, they would have conceded double the goals that they've conceded already. One has to as a neutral would have to feel sorry for the job that he's doing right now. I rate Amadou Onana very highly, but he just looks tired. He's just being played in every single game. Iwobi, who's been arguably their best player all season, he's starting to slow down a bit. Anthony Gordon, I've been noticing he's in and out of the squad a lot, and it's really caught my eye out. And I know it's a player that Andre, a lot last season, has waxed lyricals about. This season, he has waxed lyricals about Anthony Gordon. He's just been in and out of the squad. I don't necessarily know whether it's just performance not being good enough or injuries, fitness, whatnot. Just something that I've just taken notice of. But anyways, moving straight into Fulham, looking at their running games, a draw against Bournemouth, wins against Villa and Leeds, draw against Everton, and losses both 2-1 against Manchester City and Manchester United respectively. Scores and ratings for Marco Silva and standout players on a positive and negative spectrum.
Yeah, I think Fulham have been quite brilliant actually. They've exceeded my expectations from the beginning of the season. Whenever I see them going into a match, I'm always looking forward to it. I'm like, I know they're going to be able to compete. I mean, all those last 6 matches that we just mentioned, 2-2 Bournemouth, 3-0 win at Villa, 3-2 win at Leeds, draw at Everton, 2-1 loss to Man City, and a 2-1 loss to United. Those losses against 2 top 6 teams were only by 1 goal. And then they've got 2 wins against teams that are at their level, if not better. So Fulham, I think, are competing really well. Marco Silva has that team inspired. He's got a team of Premier League experienced players. You've got Issa Diop at the back. Mitrovic is just a tall striker.
Mitrovic has been out and missing for a good portion of that run of games, and it shows that they're still able to play well even without their main talisman, their main guy up front.
My guy Carlos Vinicius is in now.
Oh yeah, and oh yes,
Yeah.
Oh yes, Carlos Vinicius.
Brilliant player. I swear I just saw Mitchell. For which games? I just saw one that he was in for. I think he was there for the Everton one.
Props.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was the recent one. Anyway, yeah, I have a lot of praise for Marco Silva and Fulham. I'd probably give them like a 7. I think they're doing well for what they have.
That, I guess it's fair enough. They have definitely exceeded all of our expectations. Fulham, as we all in the beginning of the season had them as relegation contenders, and they definitely look like they will most likely stay up. Never say never, but they look like they will stay up. Next, we have Leeds, and once again with Leeds, it's always a string of bad results, and then a smaller string of good results, and then it's back to bad results. As it's inconsistent from Leeds. I mean, we've been saying it since season 1, episode 1 of Premier League Primetime. We've been saying it since then. But looking at Leeds, losing to Arsenal and Leicester and Fulham, respectively, then wins against Liverpool and Bournemouth, and then losing to Tottenham Hotspur in that final game. Scores and ratings for Jesse Marsch and players that have stood out on a positive side and a negative side.
Yeah. They're gonna want to stay in the Prem. They're gonna have to be a little more consistent, but right now they're only 2 points away from the relegation zone. Thing I've noticed about the recent matches is that even when they're winning, they're conceding a lot of goals. 4-3 against Bournemouth, but when they lose, they're losing 3-2, 4-3. So it's not the goals that are necessarily an issue. I think it's the defense. And I think that in terms of goals, a player that's been really helping them is Rodrigo Moreno. He's been great. He should have even more goals. He got injured a couple of weeks ago, and now he's back. I guess like a player that I could say has been not as good as someone like Bamford. I thought he was going to be better. Another player that I watched at Barca that's just not good is Firpo, if I'm being
Has
honest.
he even played the season?
Yeah, he played in the beginning of the season.
I don't think
He's never been good for Leeds.
I really don't think he's even played this. I can't remember the last time he even played, but I think a player that
He's been on the bench because he's so shit.
we have to mention Somerville. He's in a really, really, really good Rich vein of form. He has been brilliant. Goals against Tottenham, goals against Liverpool as well, and goals against Bournemouth. He's been spectacular for me. In this run of games. Obviously, with the long pause, we'll see if he's able to resume that. But I think one has to mention him. Next, moving into Leicester, and taking a look at their games, largely been good actually, and taking a look at just the overall scores of these 6 games. Draw against Palace and the wins against Leeds, Wolves, losing only by 1-0 to Manchester City. I watched that game, and Leicester for by far the better side. Definitely, arguably could have had a goal or two, and then wins against Everton and West Ham. Scores and ratings for Brendan Rodgers and standout players both on a negative side and a positive side. And I think the positives for the positive side, I think it's quite obvious who's the man.
Yeah, I mean
their guy this season.
I'll start it out just by reminding everyone that Davis asked me last time if Rodgers should get the sack, and I said, "No, give him a little more time." And then now they're on this lovely run of form.
Hey, I always have to play devil's advocate.
You weren't giving. No, you were just asking. But still, I just I know my shit. But anyways,
Yeah.
I will point out the main man straight away. James Maddison looked absolutely brilliant in every single game. He should be starting for England in my opinion. I think that going into the World Cup in that kind of form, you have to play him. You just have to. I mean, he's looked brilliant in every single game. Otherwise, Danny Ward. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we were all questioning whether he was of Premier League quality.
I think you yourself said he's the worst goalkeeper you've ever seen play in the Premier League.
Because he was at the time, and now he's
turned it around.
He's fully turned it around, and I
Six
couldn't be happy with it.
Or no, he's had 5 clean sheets out of 6 games.
Yeah, been brilliant. I think he won. I think he got man of the match in the West Ham game as well.
100%.
But anyways, to rate Rodgers, I would give him. I probably give him a 9. I think a draw against Palace, maybe an 8. Draw against Palace maybe a little bit tough, but Man City loss is acceptable.
100%. I think two of the players that I think we should mention. I'm probably going to be butchering it. I'm
I
probably
would
going to
say
butcher the name, but
Tielemans. Tielemans as
they're
well.
yeah, Yuri Tielemans. I was about to say, but I'm probably going to butcher the center back's name, but I think it's Foz. They're the new Belgian center back that's come in, the Wesley Fofana replacement. He's been very, very good. He's been outstanding. Very, very
I
good.
feel like Leicester just always have good center backs, no matter how many
Harvey
of them.
Barnes, of
No
course.
matter how many of them get sold, they just always have a good center backs.
Harvey
And
Barnes.
so Maguire at a time, Soyuncu, Fofana, and now this new guy, this new Belgian lad.
100%. Now, next, moving into Liverpool, and it seems like they're, there's still some poor results, but they're turning things around. Winning 1-0 against Manchester City at home, and a win against West Ham, and then losing to Nottingham Forest and Leeds, respectively, and then wins against Tottenham Hotspur and Southampton. Scores and ratings for Jurgen Klopp, and standout players both on a negative side and a positive side.
Yeah, it's weird that they keep struggling against sides that you expect them to win against. But I think truthfully the football's been pretty good. Darwin Nunez has shut up critics. He's been pretty brilliant.
Yes, look, I'll hold my hands up because I was one of the ones that said, I'll admit it, I was one of the ones that said that, I said in the beginning he will score goals, but he won't net like the 15, 20 sort of mark. He's not going to create the goals for himself. Most of his goals will be through just getting that service into the box, but he's scoring the goals, and that's what matters. So a lot of credit has to go to him.
I see people that I think this season people have been overly harsh on Salah. Like I think like Salah's first season I was very harsh because that was correct because like nobody was being very critical of him. Even though he had an amazing season, he was still just pissed me off a lot. This season I think people are being overly harsh with Salah. Like, I think he's still playing pretty well. But what are your thoughts on Salah this season, Davis?
If you're asking me, and if I cannot play devil's advocate here, well, actually, no, I will because that's my role. He's had some good games, but there have been many games where he's been underwhelming and has underperformed. I feel like that he should be better, and that from the Mo Salah sinners that we've seen since he's been at Liverpool, which he's set basically is, being at the very, very best and at the highest level. This season's been a poor one in regards to Salah and what we've seen from him in the Premier League. I feel like, there's more to come. Will we see an improvement, for Liverpool fans? Hopefully. But we will see. But it's largely been inconsistent. And that's not necessarily something that's not necessarily a word that I put near or in the same sentence or breath as Mo Salah. That's just my honest thoughts on it. I think Roberto Firmino, got to give that man credit. He's, in terms of goal tally, I think he's our leading goal scorer this year right now, or just behind Nunez. He's been very, very good. He's been brilliant since coming in. Harvey Elliott, I've been saying it since all three of you can back me on this. I've said Harvey Elliott. I've been saying this kid's name since episode 1 of the season. I mean, he's been brilliant, and he's keeping Henderson out of the side. Who, regardless of what you think about Henderson, he is the club captain, and he is like heart and soul of that Liverpool team. But he's keeping him out of the lineup, so you have to give him credit as well. And Alisson, of course, I think Alisson's actually had a very good season. A large portion of the goals that they've conceded, I wouldn't say it's down to him. But to keep it moving, next into Manchester City, and perfect other than 2 games, losing to Liverpool and then wins against Brighton, Leicester, and Fulham, respectively, and then losing 2-1 to Brentford. Although I would say that in this run of games and looking at the wins, these have not been typical 5-star Manchester City performances. These have been more gritty performances that they've had to grind out the 3 points, whether it's late heroics or something like that. Scores and ratings for Pep Guardiola and standout players both on a negative and positive spectrum.
Yeah. Man City are just, a powerhouse, but 2 losses in the last 5. That's for a team like Man City, that's not great, to be honest. You still have players like Holland doing well. I think he's not 100% fit, but hopefully the World Cup will get him there, training by himself. But honestly, there's not many like negative things I can say about the Man City players, the squad that they have. If I could say someone, I'd probably say Jack Grealish, talking all that stuff about Almiron during last summer, but you see how good he's doing versus Grealish. And Grealish for 100 million, 1 goal, that's not impressive at all. I know he's picked it up a little bit recently, but it's for 100 million, I definitely expect more than that. That's for sure. Another player that's been a little bit off the last couple of games, I noticed against Liverpool and Fulham, is Cancelo. Not saying he's had a bad season. I think he's been really good this season. Just the last couple of games, been a little off, got a red card, and was at fault for the solid goal. But besides that, Man City are still, in my opinion, favorites to win the title. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a player who just continues to impress has been Akanji. And as I said in the last episode, Ake as well, both of them. It's amazing to see how the 2 defenders that we're all thinking are going to be the depth pieces and backups to Aymeric Laporte and Ruben Diaz. It's actually been a conundrum for Pep Guardiola for who am I going to pick to start alongside Akanji or alongside Ake or alongside Stones, because Pep Guardiola this season has put all 3 of those center backs ahead of both of them. And those 3 center backs have been very good this season, I have to say. But that's just what I think for Man City. Kevin De Bruyne, it's a crime in of itself to not mention Kevin De Bruyne. It should just always be mentioned and just reminded, regardless, because Kevin De Bruyne is Kevin De Bruyne. Next, into Manchester United, and we'll start specifically with the fixtures and whatnot before we obviously get into the Ronaldo interview, which is just shocked. It shocked me. I think it shocked everyone, but just starting with the fixtures itself, looking at the run of games, drawing 0-0 against Newcastle, arguably should have won that game. But Newcastle played very well, I have to say. A win against a team that just everyone's at the back. They decide to just put everyone at the back and just try and just stink up the place as they've done for a lot of the season. Tottenham, a 2-0 win against Tottenham. That's honestly been my favorite performance I've seen from this team in a long time. That was, Tottenham allowed us to look like Man City. It was just beautiful to watch. A draw against Chelsea, which I don't know how we didn't win that game. I don't know. And then a win against West Ham, losing against Aston Villa, and then winning against Fulham, grinding out 3 points. Starting off scores and ratings for Erik ten Hag, and standout players both on a negative side and a positive side. Jose.
Yeah, so I want to start by talking about the Newcastle game. So the Newcastle game, I thought we played really well, and I think that there were some very dodgy decisions in that game, but still, I think we had chances. We didn't take them, and we didn't win. That's all it is. In the next game, I will talk about, or not in the Tottenham game, but in the Chelsea game, I will talk about the refereeing, because when do you ever see a penalty given for a challenge completely off the ball like that? So the corner hasn't even been taken yet, and McTominay, like, what did he do? He pulled someone down or something in the box. The ball wasn't in play, nothing was happening, and the referee stopped the game, gave a penalty for that. And then the very next week, I think this happened 2, 3 times, and none of the decisions were given as penalties. So somehow Chelsea got a penalty in this game, and somehow we didn't win it. Luckily, Casemiro got us a draw in the end, but we were very, very, very unlucky in this game to not win. Otherwise, the Villa game was bad. We played really badly. Villa looked really good. And then the Fulham game, I didn't think we were that good either. I was at that game, and I was totally. I mean, the Fulham fans are right behind their team, and I really did not think we were going to score. And then Garnacho went down the other end and somehow managed to put it in, and I was very happy. Couldn't really show it, but it's all right. For Ten Hag, I mean, I think Ten Hag is he's coached good. He's coached wins in every game, but the players have not been doing it. So I mean, I can't really give him that high of a score for this run of games. I'd probably give him a 6 or a 7, maybe a 6.5.
That's fair.
Yeah, because I think he's done well, but the players have kind of let him down. Standout players in this run of games, you have to say Garnacho for the last game looked excellent. He's looking like he's going to be a star. I really hope he is. Otherwise, Casemiro has looked great in the midfield in every single game. Otherwise, yeah, that's what I would say.
I agree with that. I think in regards to other players as well, I think Marcus Rashford's been largely good in this just run of games. Maybe not hasn't scored in every single one of these games, but I just think he's just it's looking as if he's offering more than to what we know Marcus Rashford is, and we're starting to see that. Luke Shaw as well. Luke Shaw. Roberto Carlos has once again been rejuvenated, bringing in a little bit of competition, and Roberto is back. This is why I said keep Luke Shaw. Say see you later to Tellez. Nothing against Tellez, but I just know what Luke Shaw can do. Got slated all last season for it. But he's justifying why he should be our starting left back as of right now. He definitely looks fitter as well. As we've seen along for a while, always overweight, not necessarily in shape. We've seen that a lot from him. But looks like he's hopefully going to go back to the Roberto Carlos that we know and love. I agree with everything that you said as well. Diogo Dalot,
He's been great all season.
Brilliant.
All season.
Brilliant. Anyways, now it's time to talk about what. Yes.
Before we get into the interview, what are your? I've seen a lot of the media go crazy over Garnacho. What are your guys' honest thoughts?
I think he's a star in the making. He's a fantastic young player, and for me, he's the way he has come through. He's come through the center. He's come through the academy, and is just starting to. And he's just really, really blossoming now. It's sort of in a sense reminding me of just a little bit of the way that Saka came through, or the way that Martinelli was slowly integrated into the first team. But I'd more say, reminds me of how Saka was brought through. He was slowly nurtured into the team, but then every time you've seen him play, you can look at that game and say, hey, there's you got ourselves a serious talent on our hands. And I sort of say, and no, not even sort of, I say the same with Garnacho, obviously not on the levels of Saka. That would be completely biased. But I'm just seeing similar sort of trajectories or paths here. But Jose, thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for me, when I look at what I want in a winger, I want them to be able to do crazy things on the wing. So when I see Garnacho play, I see him playing literally on the line as far away from the goal as possible, literally on the line. Like, he receives the ball there and he somehow manages to get it all the way to the box, and I love that because it stretches the other team out so much, and it leaves space for Shaw to run in behind as well. And I think that he really impresses me with his speed and his dribbling and his shooting. He's been incredibly accurate with all the shots he's taken. So I think he has everything that I would want in a winger, and I think that the more experience he gets, the better he's going to be, and I really think he could have a great future.
100%. And I just saw that, speaking of wingers, I, as much as I love Jadon Sancho, something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong with Sancho. He's definitely a negative here. Hasn't been performing, but
Has been playing.
he hasn't been playing, and also hasn't really been performing as well.
We don't really know why. It's been speculated that he's ill, but we don't really know. It's weird.
I adore Jadon Sancho. I love it.
For me, it seems like he's been playing so badly that Ten Hag has asked him to take a breather for a bit.
That's what I hope, because there's such a talented player in there, and I would not want that to just go to waste. And especially my mental health for what 3 straight summers for us watching those Jadon Sancho rumors and links and updates from Fabrizio Romano. I would not want that to go down the drain. But now it's time to get on to one of the main topics of our show. The Cristiano Ronaldo interview. I'm not going to explain it. We've all seen it. You all know what's happened. In the chat, I think all of us have made our thoughts very clear, and Huck and Waleed as well. Just gonna go around. Jose, I'm gonna start with you. What, just in a brief summary, what are your overall thoughts on this Cristiano Ronaldo interview? Where do you stand?
So, I mean, when you look at the there's kind of two sides in this thing. You have the Ronaldo fans and you have the Man U fans. And I think that the Ronaldo fans obviously just agree with everything Ronaldo is saying. I think that it's obviously like he's in the right for everything. Ten Hag should be playing him. And then you have the Man U fans who are like disgusted by it, who think like, why is he doing this right now? Why does he want to come out with this? And I'm just like, I'm in the middle. I mean, like he's everything that he said, other than the fact that he does not respect Ten Hag, I can totally agree with, because I think that everything he said other than that, I mean, what is there? He talks trash about the Glazers, totally agree with that. Talks trash about the state of the club, totally agree with that. Respects Messi. I mean, obviously that's great. I mean, and then you have the part where he doesn't like that Neville and Rooney and some of his former teammates have been coming out saying that he shouldn't be playing or things like that. And what I think about that is, I mean, the culture that Ronaldo grew up in at United, those players were not supposed to ever do that. You have Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand who stick by his side no matter what, and maybe they are biased. Obviously, they are biased because he hasn't been good this season. I'll be the first to admit that. I think that Ronaldo expects respect from them no matter what, which you can see from Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand, but you can't see from Gary Neville and Wayne Rooney. So I think that's the reason for his attacks on them in the interview. But otherwise, I think that everything is totally valid, other than that he disrespects Ten Hag, because I think that he doesn't recognize how poor he's been in the time he has been given this season, and he needs to respect a manager who does things his own way, because that's exactly what we need.
100%. Seriously, over to you. Just give me your brief summary on just where you stand from a neutral point of view, obviously, with this whole Cristiano Ronaldo interview. Thoughts on that?
I actually watched it all, and look, I'm not the biggest Ronaldo fan. I'm a Messi fan, I can't lie, but I do agree with the majority of what he said. Sometimes I feel like the thing about Ronaldo is he can't take criticism, and I feel like that's why he is so against Neville. I think the Rooney comments, I think were unnecessary by Rooney. I think Ronaldo's right about that. But I think sometimes, like in Neville's position, he's just not being biased. He's doing what, a good analyst should do. But besides that, like him going up to the Glazers, him saying like, oh, the equipment, everything's been the same. I think he was right to say that. And, obviously I don't think he's going to play for Man U again. The thing about Ralph Rangnick, I understand where he's coming from, but it's not like Rangnick was an unknown figure. In Germany, he was an extremely big figure. That's just my personal opinion on it, but I think Ronaldo was 90% right in everything he said. And I think he deserves to be angry. He deserves to be mad about what happened during preseason. The owner's not believing him. He's been through a tough time. If I was in his position, I'd have a tough time as well. So yeah.
Fair enough. And Andre, lastly, over to you. Give me your brief summary on where you stand with this Cristiano Ronaldo Piers Morgan interview.
Yeah, we were talking a bit about the show. It is funny that he did choose Piers Morgan. We all knew that Piers Morgan would, and Jose's words, stuck him off on camera, which is kind of what happened. Yeah, it's a tough one because it's like you look at him and he's like, wow, he's speaking facts. He does speak a lot of truth, and it's blunt. I feel like it is. If you're at a club, I still think it's wrong to criticize the coach, which is what he did. I don't like when players do that. I think it was motivated by his own ego to do that. Even though I think United fans also suck off Ten Hag a little too much. Like he's not, you know what I mean. But yeah, it's his choice. I don't think the timing was bad. He's done it before the World Cup, and once the World Cup is over, it's pretty much already going to be near January, so he'll probably secure a move elsewhere then. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm not too surprised that he did this. I guess that's what I'll say. But I think we've reacted overly negatively, though. I don't think it's that big of a story, though. I mean, Sky Sports, that report where they were like, "Oh, United taking down the mural of Ronaldo," that was just a stupid headline. They were making rooms. They're going to use Old Trafford for other things. Like I hated that. I hate stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And now it's my turn. A lot of people, whether it's people, at my college, mates from abroad, mates from back home.
Everyone's asking Davis.
Yes.
Everyone's asking.
Yes. A lot of people have asked me, both within the Premier League Pronto family and and outside of it as well. I've received a lot of questions about it and what my thoughts on this whole Ronaldo thing is, and I'm going to answer these questions right now. In regards to the things that he has addressed, I'll start with the Eric Ten Hag thing. I condemned every single inch of that. You do not do that to your manager. You don't do that to your employer. Basically, the reason why anyone would do that, it's basically to get them to sack ASAP. And I don't think there's no at this point, there's no return for him. There is no return for him at this point. Next, Ralph Rangnick. Okay, I can understand that a lot of people, including myself, had criticisms of Ralph Rangnick. I had my own criticisms, but at the end of the day, the players that he was working with and that squad last season were so bad that I don't know. I don't think Jesus could have saved us last season. That's how bad we were. And he's saying that, he doesn't even know Ralph Rangnick and whatnot. And my response to that is that there are going to be a lot of managers that you don't necessarily know. Like if you think about it, like Lopetegui wasn't the biggest name that went to Real Madrid. If you think about it, Carlos Queiroz, for those who know United history and whatnot, Fergie's number 2. He went to Real Madrid for a short bit of time, for a short while as well. And I think that just because it's someone that you don't know doesn't necessarily give you the right to go and I guess you could say disrespect or discount what they've done. I mean, he's managed in the Champions League, so, but then again, Ole has, but I'm not comparing Ole to Rangnick. That's a crime in and of itself. Third, I'm going to talk about the state of the club in regards to Old Trafford and the facilities. These are all things that we already knew. This wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo breaking the truth and saying that, and just getting it known to all of us that, oh, breaking news, Old Trafford's running down. Breaking news, Carrington is a rundown training ground. Breaking news, Carrington is not the most modernized and really needs investment. These are all things that Manchester United fans knew and have seen. and that the board were already starting to take hit. We're starting to make schemes and plans to invest in that. And in regards to the board, everyone knows my thoughts on the board at this point. I'm not even going to say it, but these are things that we already knew. In regards to the Rooney thing, I do think that parts of what Rooney has had to say was unnecessary, but I think Ronaldo's response to that was equally as childish as well. Could have played that differently, but to say that that I'm still playing at a higher level and I'm better looking than him, like you, at this point you sound like a child at this point. And there just wasn't need for that, and probably could have gone about that differently. So for me, I see somewhat similar to where Jose sits in the middle, but probably a little less so. Probably towards just a little bit more towards the Man United side, because Ronaldo's a club legend. I love what he's done for us, but this interview has, for me, in terms of the things that he's come out and said about the club and whatnot, it's tarnishing his legacy. With the Glazers, I 100% back what he has said about the Glazers. I do agree. But then again, it's not breaking news that the Glazers don't care about the football club, that they don't invest enough in the football club. These are all things that we've known for how many years. But a lot of things that he said, he has been right. But anyways, to keep him moving, getting into Newcastle, again, they're arguably, they remind me of West Ham 2 seasons ago. They remind me of Brighton last season as well, and Brighton for a lot of the season too. They're just so impressive when you look at this side. The only game that they didn't win was against Manchester United at Old Trafford when they drew 0-0, but then wins against Everton, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Southampton, and Chelsea. Scores and ratings for Eddie Howe, and standout players from a positive side and a negative side.
Yeah, Newcastle have been brilliant. I think in terms of form, they're up there. They're just definitely deserving of third right now. Eddie Howe is probably, I think it's between him and Arteta for just the managers who have impressed us most this season. I think Eddie Howe has done a job at that club. We all knew that his job at Bournemouth was incredible, but Newcastle is, I think Eddie Howe's now could create a legacy with this club. They're playing really well. Trippier revitalized, creating chances. Almiron, we mentioned earlier how brilliant he's been.
Premier League Player of the Month as well.
Yeah. Callum Wilson's made the England squad. I think the whole league should be full of praise for this Newcastle team. So it's not like, we all know they were bought, yes, by rich owners, but they haven't exactly splashed the cash. They're still working with a squad that is
they've invested in it, and they've invested their money intelligently. Something that I've been praising Newcastle now for time. They've invested their money in a sound way. Sven Botman, one of the better young center backs in Europe, brought him in for 35-40 million. Nick Pope from Burnley, last year of his contract, brought him in for 15 million. Fabian Schär's always been a decent center back. Pair him with Botman, and I think Newcastle have the either the joint best or second best defensive record in the league right now. I could be wrong, but they're up there. They've been brilliant defensively as well. But of course, again, like Kevin De Bruyne, it's a crime if you don't mention their main man, Bruno Guimaraes. Every game, he just looks like he's just getting better and better and better and better every game, and he's just such an impressive player to watch. Really, really is. He's the best Bruno in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's going to be their talisman for the next few years for sure for this 100%. Newcastle redevelopment. It's been really good. I think they only have one loss this season, I think, which is tied with Arsenal.
100%.
Yeah.
And anyways, to keep it moving into Nottingham Forest next, taking a look at their games: a loss against Wolves, a draw against Brighton, a win against Liverpool, losing 5-0 against Arsenal, and then a draw against Brentford and a win against Palace. Scores and ratings for Steve Cooper and standout players from a negative and positive perspective.
Yeah. To be honest, a win against Liverpool is an extremely big win. I'll tell you that. It's pretty impressive. And besides the Arsenal game, there hasn't really been any poor games, you could say. I think something they do struggle with, you could see, is scoring goals. That is a big struggle. I think that some parts of their defense have been a struggle as well. I think Serge Aurier and Kouate are past their time, if I'm being honest. I think Gibbs White has been decent from what I've seen. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too convinced on this Forest side. I'm not too convinced they're gonna stay up. I think many people thought they would, similar to the Fulham type thing. They did have a good win in the Carling Cup, I believe. Is it called the Carling Cup still? I don't know.
Carabao Cup.
Carabao Cup. Jesse Lingard against Tottenham. I fancied that greatly.
Andre did too.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think that the thing about Nottingham Forest is I think they're lacking a bit of team chemistry right now. I think Dean Henderson's been good. I think I mentioned that before. I still expect more from Lingard. I don't think he's been amazing this season. Maybe that Tottenham goal can in this break for him for the World Cup can change things for him. So yeah.
Definitely. Next into Southampton. And this run of games ended up seeing Ralph Hasenhüttl finally get the sack. For it just seemed like forever he was on the brink, but then did an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and then somehow kept his job when his job was on the line. Players turned up and he is finally gone. Sacked after losing 4-1 to Newcastle. And then Nathan Jones from Luton Town. I don't know a whole lot about him, so I'm not going to wax lyricals and act as if I do know a lot about him. Coming in from Luton Town, was doing very well in the championship as well. I think they're either in first or second, third, around there. Could be wrong. But anyways, looking at this run of games, scores and ratings for Ralph Hasenhüttl and Southampton, and standout players from a positive side and a negative side.
Yeah, it did kind of seem like Southampton weren't really going anywhere under Hasenhüttl. Whether that was entirely his fault, I mean, it's not for me to answer, because I think that I'm not entirely sure how much investment they've had recently. But I think that their biggest problem at the moment is scoring goals. They've scored either 1 or 0 in their last 6, so it's looking tough. Shea Adams has more often than not been the man to get them the odd goal, so I'd point him out for one of their positives. But other than that, there's not much else to go for. I would give Hasenhüttl maybe a 4 out of 10 for this run. That's
fair. And I think what's really shown for Southampton this season is some of the young players that they brought in. As I mentioned in last episode, Romeo Lavia, coming in from Manchester City's youth system, coming straight into the Southampton side, has done very, very well. In now getting consistent first team football every week. But for me, I think besides Bazunu, their goalkeeper, I think their biggest performer has to be Bello Kotchap, the center back, the German center back's gotten called up for the World Cup as well. And you know what? He deserves his place there as well. Looking at his performances this season, he's been brilliant. He's been one of their shining lights this season in what's been, I guess you could say, a depressing season for Southampton. Now, moving into Tottenham Hotspur, Andre, time to shine. Unlike Tottenham, whenever I watch them, because more often they grow dull rather than shine. But taking a look at this, taking a look at their run of games, a win against Everton, my favorite performance of the season. A wonderful 2-0 loss against Manchester United, losing 2-1 to Newcastle, a win 3-2 against Bournemouth, losing 2-1 to Liverpool at home, and then winning 4-3 against Leeds to close out that run of 6 games. scores and ratings for Antonio Conte and standout players both on a positive side and a negative side, Andre.
Yeah. I'd probably give the performances aren't great. Still Conte and the team, I'd give like a 7 or an 8. Because we're getting the results we've had, which is surprising given the fixture congestion we've had. Not much squad depth in a lot of those games. There's rumor or
We can't hear you, Andre.
Andre, I think you're muted.
Oh, he's just going on. Hello.
Andre, you're muted.
Oh, he's looking.
It doesn't say he's muted. We just can't hear him.
Or wait, we can't hear you. Something's wrong with your audio.
shit. Hold on.
Well, for now, I'll assume that Andre says that he greatly fancies Conte ball at Tottenham, because I greatly fancy seeing the Tottenham meltdown from it. Beautiful to watch. But also from a neutral, it was horrific for me to watch as well.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I could speak a little about Tottenham. I think it's like I think that their biggest problem is still that they don't have
Yeah.
a creative midfielder to link them together. All right, anyway, give it back to
he's
Andre.
back. Andre, what were you saying before you turned into a Tottenham's attack as of in recent weeks?
What was the last thing you heard? I don't remember.
You're talking about how Son is shit.
No. Okay. Okay. I think I was saying that a lot of the journalists that work on our club have broken that supposedly there's specific instruction from Conte's coaching team to not go 100% until the last half an hour of matches, which is why you've seen 3 or 4 of our games where we have a last minute winner. There's clearly more effort, and it's gotten results, but it's just detrimental in terms of the style of football. But that's been Conte's solution to a lot of our fixture congestion. So I can't complain because the results have been coming, but it's not the best to watch. In terms of our players, Bentancur and Højbjerg have been carrying us. Bentancur in particular has been absolutely phenomenal.
Has been coming up with goals. He's been the one scoring goals for you on.
Yeah, he's got like 4 goals or something in our last like 6 or 7 matches, something like that. But yeah, he's doing everything.
He's been
interesting. Like I've never seen, like I don't know if I've seen like a team with a double pivot where the center mids have so much responsibility both defensively and attackingly, like both of them together. Like there's not really one that's hanging behind. We're having both of them just bolter up and down the pitch. And it's been interesting. They've both been seriously brilliant. Yeah, I give my team like a 7 or 8. I'm happy where we are.
You know, you may be happy where you are, but about that football, I would not be happy watching it.
After the World Cup, when fixture, and also I'm thank God we're out of the Carabao Cup. Like the football is for sure going to improve. When Conte first came in, you saw the Kulu Son Kane front three was clicking so hard. So the football has been dull, incredibly dull, but it's going to improve second half of the season.
Kulusevski, Son, and Kane front three has now turned into Harry Kane. A slowed down Ivan Perisic and Lucas Moura on occasion from time to time again when he gets that occasional appearance.
I mean, Son he fractured his eye socket. Richarlison was injured, and so shut up, Davis.
I'm not blaming Tottenham's injury problems. I'm just saying, like the downfall. But I think the one player I have to say before I move into West Ham. Again, we just keep seeing how brilliant Emerson Royale is. Andre, before I move into West Ham, is Emerson Royale still your first choice starting right wing back for Tottenham Hotspur? Yes or no?
He needs a break. Like Spence needs minutes, but I still think, yeah,
he still is
dreadful.
He needs like a 4-match break. Like, but that's not still like Emerson is a lot for a lot of those games.
I hope Conte keeps faith in him. quality player.
No, Spence needs game time. Every time Spence has gotten a few minutes, it's been very exciting, and he's been he looks like a content wing back. So yeah, I still think Spence needs time, but I think we should rotate between the two of them. But Emerson, yeah, he just has moments like that no look pass, stupid things like that just get memed out of proportion. I feel bad for him. I don't think the
But
negatives.
consistent
Putting
before
any-
the moments. Consistent.
What is it? Oh, Emerson.
Yes.
You know, he watch just why he's gonna have one really brilliant moment this season at some point, and he's gonna be our bench player. He's gonna be amazing.
Will the brilliant moment be
Coming.
him? Will the brilliant moment be him throwing in the ball correctly? Because you've seen that at least once.
No, he's gonna snipe the ball off Garnacho and injure him, and then he's gonna run the length of the pitch and slot it bottom corner through
I
the
was
head.
gonna say I was reminded of when Bellerin was like taking all these foul throw-ins for Arsenal, was giving those vibes.
That was a North London derby. I think that was a North London derby against Tottenham a few years ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving.
I do have to go to. I do
West
have to leave. I have to go to work. So before I go, just quick thoughts before when you guys have the World Cup conversation.
Yeah.
I think this will be the first World Cup in a few tournaments where we'll have a South American winner. I don't think we'll go to a European country, and I think all of Davis's opinions on England are just horrible takes. Anyway, all right, see you guys.
The
Wow.
slander, well, as you know, we all love Andre, but I'm not even gonna be devil's advocate. I can't even agree with that, but we have to see Andre back around.
I could agree with that, Andre. I'll defend you. Don't worry.
Yeah, thank you.
I also agree.
Cannot be asked. Anyways, to quickly move through these last two teams, unfortunately, somehow it took longer than desired. Unbelievably amazing. Going to West Ham quickly. So you're looking at these games: a draw against Southampton, a loss against Liverpool, a win against Bournemouth, and then losses against Manchester United, Palace, and Leicester. Scores and ratings for David Moyes and standout players, positive and negative.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. They've been pretty shite. I think one of their only good players has been Ben Rama. I don't understand why he's getting subbed off every time. You've seen he's been pissed, so have the fans. I think I don't know. Like, to be honest, I think Zuma's been decent as well. But in my opinion, Paqueta hasn't lived up to the expectations that I know he can play at. Maybe just taking a while for him to get into the Premier League. I think also Antonio is injured. That's a big blow for them as well.
100%.
But yeah, they've kind of had the same defense for a while. I don't know if that's like, they're Craig Dawson, like, really.
I mean, he's a bit part player, anyways. I mean, they brought in the likes of
They
Tito
still have like
Carrier.
on the bench. Like they have. It's time to get rid of some dead wood if I'm West Ham. But it's a little disappointing. I think Declan Rice, he should leave, if I'm being honest.
I think he's wanted to leave, but I think West Ham's, to be blunt, West Ham's fat price tag that they placed on his head is not allowing him to go anywhere. Because if West Ham allowed him to leave, I think we would have signed him years ago. We would have signed him at least a season or two ago.
Well, now you have McTominay, so it's okay.
Oh no, yeah, 100%. Yes, he's going to be the next Roy Keane, obviously. And last but not least, quickly going into Wolves, looking at their run of games, it's been pretty poor. A win against Nottingham Forest, but then losses against Palace, Leicester, but then a draw against Brentford, and then losing to Brighton and Arsenal as well. Steve Davis coming in as the caretaker, but of course, his time is done. Julian Lopetegui, the guy who we thought wouldn't be coming, who initially rejected Wolves, has taken a U-turn and said, yeah, I'll take the job. So he is a new manager of Wolves. But starting off with Steve Davis, scores and ratings for him as well, and standout players on a negative and positive side. Jose.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. Other than the Forest victory, I think standout players, the only person I could say is maybe Ruben Neves. He's just all right. Otherwise, it's really not been there hasn't been pretty much no bright sparks. They've been losing every single game. They're bottom of the league. They're dead last. Lopetegui's got a big job on his hands this season to get them playing the way he wants them to. I think that they really need an attacker. They really need an actual striker. I know they're playing Adama and Gonzalo Guedes up front right now, who are two wingers
Diego
who
Costa, they brought him in as well.
aren't even but he's not doing anything. But Gonzalo Guedes and Adama Traore are not even really goal scoring wingers. They're both more creative wingers who provide more assists than goals. So playing them up front together is a bit strange to me. I looked at their team recently for their most recent game, and there was a lot of players I didn't even recognize. I think there were a lot of young players in the team.
100%.
So I think that Lopetegui is really trying to experiment, see what he has, and hopefully hopefully for his sake he'll have his best team figured out by Boxing Day.
100%. And just one player that I just am impressed with, Traore, not Adama, the number
the other one.
the midfielder. I've been impressed with him. I've liked what I've seen from the few games I've seen him play. But Lopetegui's a huge job on his hands. And now we finally come to the end of the Premier League. It is time to say goodbye until Boxing Day to the Premier League. And now the World Cup. Quickly, World Cup winners. Who's your team to win the World Cup? Jose, I'll start with you. Who's your prediction?
All right. It was Brazil, but I can't see them beating Argentina. So it's Argentina.
Seriously, you agree with that?
Yeah, I Logan agree for sure. And if Argentina don't win, I'm gonna cry.
If one were to ask me, I think it could very well be either or Brazil or Argentina. I feel like it could be, either one from South America. I mean, the European sides, they look good, but I feel like the South American sides just, they look better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it has to be one of them.
It has to be one of them, but you never know. World Cups are always quite funny in the sense that very weird things can happen.
I think Uruguay is going to be a dark horse.
Oh, what? Oh my God, that's my whole thing. My whole thing is that Uruguay are gonna finish second.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Uruguay have a good side. They have a decent spine, a decent core as well. Suarez and Cavani still playing.
I think it's a mix of the players they have and the system they play. So they play the 4-4-2, the classic Simeone style 4-4-2, and now that they have someone like Fede Valverde on the right, you got what's his name, Darwin Nunez, who I wouldn't be surprised to see out on the left if Cavani and Suarez are still playing up front, and they got Bentancur in the midfield as well, and obviously Jimenez, Godin, Araujo at the back. I think they have a really, really good team and a really, really good chance of making it far if they play.
Yeah, I think
if they play for 1-0,
100%.
They'll do really well.
I think it's also about if Araujo can stay fit. I agree.
Next, top scorer. Who do you think is going to take home the Golden Boot this World Cup?
I go Neymar. Even if Messi wins it, I think that Neymar will outscore him.
Neymar. That's quite interesting.
I'll go Mbappe because I think during the group stage matches, Mbappe is just going to score a bunch of goals, and then I don't think France is going that far though.
Agreed.
This one could be an odd one, and one could say I'm biased towards my boys, but Harry Kane always finds a way to get himself in and around the Golden Boot. I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm not saying he's the guy before anyone jumps on my back, but he always finds a way to get himself in contention for it. But then again, being at Tottenham, they're used to being in contention for titles and then not winning them. So I feel like regardless, he's in the run-in always because it's Harry Kane. He's one of the best strikers in the world regardless. But at the end of the day, he probably won't win it. I feel like he'll probably be edged out maybe to someone like Karim Benzema. I think we've forgotten about him as well. And Mbappe is a good one that you've mentioned. Neymar's not a bad option as well. I mean, you could go many directions with this. But
the thing
now
about France players is they're gonna split it, right? And Mbappe's gonna score some, and Benzema's gonna score some. So that's for me why I wouldn't pick them as my number one.
Yeah, I think the top scorers are gonna be either one of the trios that are on PSG, either Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe.
That's fair. I think that's a good job to say. Next, biggest flop. We have two categories. we'll start off with just player. We'll start off with just the most underwhelming player in regards to expectations, World Cup. Who do you think could fit that category?
I mean, it pains me to say this because I want him to go. I want him to reach the final at least, but probably Ronaldo. I don't think he's gonna do very well. Portugal. I mean, there's gonna be like some big team is gonna have to go out in the group stage, and if I had to put my money on it, it might be Portugal.
That's a very, very, very good shot. Sirius, what about you?
I was gonna say Spain. I was gonna say I wasn't really thinking of a player, but I was just gonna say Spain. If I had to pick a player that would be underwhelming, I was gonna either pick Gavi or Pedri. I just don't think they're ready yet.
You know, we know Sirius is saying this just to get just to get a rise out of Jose. In my opinion, you know, as much as I bigged Harry Kane up, it could very well also be Harry Kane. It could very well be, or it could be Jose's other favorite player, Raheem Sterling. Although he does tend to play well for England more times than none, so who knows? But I feel like one that I feel like people may overlook. I feel like Kevin De Bruyne. I feel like at times, like when Belgium reach the latter stages, and when it matters most, they bottle it. And I feel like Kevin De Bruyne could be that guy, potentially. Could be Ronaldo. I'd probably say either one of them. Next, nation. Just most underwhelming nation this World Cup.
Yeah, for me, it's a toss-up, maybe between. I have a feeling Germany might struggle. I think France could struggle. I think France could go out really early, like round of 16,
France
just
was
because of that.
my
Just because of that curse, you know.
and their
I mean,
injuries.
well, the injuries, of course, but also the
Yeah.
curse, the curse of the holders. But I mean, looking at my bracket that I've made, I'll go. I'm gonna go Portugal because I think that they could face Brazil and just crash out.
100%. Yeah, France were definitely straight away on mine as well. Losing Nkunku as well. I wonder who they will call up to replace him. Sirius, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Germany. I just don't think they're gonna have a good World Cup. I think some players have been underwhelming this season too. I think Gnabry's been pretty underwhelming. I think they're gonna have to rely on their more experienced players. Maybe Muller can have a big World Cup because I know he usually does. He's actually the
Just
top.
consistent.
Yeah, he's actually the top goal scorer in the world, like top active goal scorer in the World Cup.
He is Mr. Consistent. Thomas Muller, he is. Next, standout player. And when I mean standout player, like the James Rodriguez of 2014. Like that's a player who comes to life this World Cup. Not saying this player is completely unknown, but just a player that just comes to life and just says, hey, I can do it on the big stage.
I mean, for me, we kind of already know these players are good, but for me, there's two, and it's Pedri and Valverde. I think that Valverde will lead Uruguay to second, and I think Pedri will be. I think Spain could be bad because we have bad forwards, but I think that even if we are bad, what's bad about us will not be our midfield. I think our midfield is excellent. We're going to control every single game we play. We're going to have like 75% possession. Pedri and Gavi are going to ball. But I think that our biggest issue, our real issue is forwards and scoring goals. So I think that'll be our downfall if we are bad.
Sirius, what about you?
Yeah, two
You're-
players out, but I think could come to life. I agree with Valverde. I think he's going to be amazing this World Cup. Another player on the same team, I think Nunez is going to be good. To be honest, I think he's starting to come back to form, and I think he's going to be comfortable with his side, and I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for me, as similar to what Jose said in terms of just players that we know are good, but players who will just more or less just prove it. We've all seen how good Lisandro Martinez has been this season, but I feel like he's going to have a very good World Cup. Something telling me he will, and he's going to be saying, hey, I can do it on the big stage here as well. If Saliba gets the minutes, if Deschamps goes with the back five, back three, plays with three center backs. For me, he starts as one of the center backs, because well, I mean, what other center back are you going to really pick over him in the pecking order other than Varane? Probably no one else. And someone Jose was saying earlier, Leandro Trossard. I feel like if he gets the minutes,
Definitely.
he could very well be be
The
the guy.
issue for him is just I don't see Belgium going very far.
I agree. Next, the dark horse to win the World Cup. Who is your dark horse to win the World Cup?
Yeah, well, I've been talking about Uruguay. They're definitely my pick. But other teams that I might want to mention quickly, Serbia. A lot of people overlook them. They have a really really talented team. They have, well, obviously Mitrovic. They have Vlahovic, Milinkovic, Savic, Kostic, and I think that they have also a really good system. I mean, we did see them qualify ahead of Portugal, from their group, so I think that they could really be someone to look out for. Obviously, Denmark is the one everyone says to look out for.
100%.
They definitely have a really good team mentality overall. Not necessarily the best players, but they really play as a team, and they've got some players who really turn up during big tournaments.
100%. Denmark was one. I feel like Croatia's also always one that they will get overlooked.
Yeah, I could see them.
You shouldn't.
I could see them beating a big team and then maybe going out.
Yeah, for me, it's Croatia or Denmark. Not necessarily win it, but just to be a dark horse this World Cup. Serious. What about you?
A dark horse. I'd probably say the Netherlands.
That's a very good one. That's a great shout. That's a
with Van Gaal back. Yeah,
100%.
I think De Jong's gonna be good.
They're only missing Tim Krul. It's a shame they didn't get called up. An underrated nation to exceed expectations, be more or less a just dark horse. It's more or less the same thing. Next, player with the biggest carrying job for the World Cup. Now, it could be a number of players, but for me, I have a few. I'll just say straight off the back, Sadio Mane.
he's out. He just got out today.
Yeah, he's
Just
out.
He did?
literally like an hour or so ago. He just got ruled out entirely of the World Cup,
Oh, a few hours.
which I was very sad about.
Praise be to Jose for saying that.
Because
Son,
I would
Son
have
is
said the
fit,
exact same thing.
and Son is gonna have a carrying job to do, regardless. Human Son for South Korea definitely will, 100%. One could argue and say for one could say Cameroon, Choupo-Moting. Choupo-Moting's been amazing. He's been amazing so far. I'd say for most of the season he's been amazing. And then the last one that I kind of wanted to mention, but one could really see in either direction, was actually Serbia. In regards to the goals, Vlahovic and Mitrovic, it's going to be down to those two to carry them forward. Thoughts? Serious, Jose?
Yeah, I would definitely agree about Son. I think Son's got a real task ahead of him. You look at that team and you think you've got Son in there, and then you have Kim, the Napoli center back, who's been good this season. But other than that, there's not too many people that at least that we really know of. Someone I would point out is Lewandowski. I think he's got a real task on his hands. They have a few other good players in that Poland team, but I think it's gonna be really a lot down to him if they do well in this tournament. And I'm gonna repeat my earlier answer and say Pedri as well, because I think that he's gonna be expected to not only control the tempo of every single game, but also score goals and assists. So I think he's got a real task on his hands at this World Cup for Spain.
Definitely. Moises Caicedo of Ecuador as well. He's gonna have to basically control that midfield by himself. Serious, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Lewandowski. I think something that isn't really talked about too much is that he doesn't really show up with Poland, to be honest. It's hard because you don't have as good as players around you. But I think he's gonna have to do a carry job if they want to go anywhere. See, normally with previous World Cups, I would have said Messi, but now I think Messi has the strongest team he's had around him. I think he has
100%.
players that are going to show up for him, and I think that Di Maria is going to be a big, big part of that team because Di Maria always seems to show up in the big games.
Always.
Yeah, the thing about our sorry, you want to go?
No, it's fine. I was just adding that as well. What were you gonna add?
I was just gonna say for Argentina, like the best thing they've done is take the burden away from Messi. So they play so much as a team with people who can take Messi's responsibility away from him that it almost makes Messi like want to grab it back. Like you see them playing such great football that Messi can score can get 9 goal contributions in the Copa America and have other players doing well as well.
100%. And real quickly, I had to start up two right now. Gareth Bale for Wales. That's a given.
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic for the US. One could say Weston McKennie, maybe. You have other players there. Jesus Ferreira, stumble in the MLS. And other players and whatnot. But to be honest with you, it's that whole team will be Christian Pulisic and what he can do going forward. And now, last but not least, before we end the show, go through each group and give our top two. I'll start with you. Let's start with Group A. And I think this one should be pretty obvious. Or
Well,
not
it
obvious.
was. It was, but now Mane's out. So
I think
So
still
they have-
Senegal have a good enough team.
they have a great
Yeah.
team. They have a great team, but I mean, I'm sure they're so used to having
Mm-hmm.
Mane up front that it can be difficult. I still would edge it to them. I would say that they could, yeah, probably get a win against Qatar, maybe draw Ecuador, and it would be enough. So Senegal and Netherlands. Netherlands to top.
Okay. Sirius, what about you? Sirius? Sirius is gone.
No, he's not. He's not for. He's.
Wait,
I don't think.
wait, oh wait, no, he's not. For a minute, I thought he was. I thought Sirius was frozen for a minute.
I'm back. Sorry, I was frozen.
Okay.
What was the
yes,
question?
Top two in Group A.
Oh, top two in Group A. This is tough. I'm gonna say Netherlands and Senegal.
And I will pull the classic series and will say I agree with Joe. Group B, for me, because England, we always have a tendency to somehow just make it out alive somehow, except the Nations League. We were horrible in Nations League. But for me, I'll say England just gets first. It will not be pretty, but we'll probably just get first. And then I'll say the US will get second. We'll get second place in that group. Jose, Sirius, what do you think?
Okay, so for me, this is honestly the best group in the whole World Cup because I think that it could finish in any order, and you could say that there's not really that big of a surprise. So for me, this is a really difficult one. I'd go England to go through. I go England top. Just because I think that Southgate has been statistically good during tournaments. And then I would say, no one rates the US except for people from the US. But I'm gonna say the US go through. So England top, then the US.
I think the US have a good, promising young side, and I feel like
Yeah, I think we'll be great.
against
We'll be
Wales is
great
a
at
good matchup.
I think the US will be great at the next World Cup, but this one is a bit one too soon.
I still feel like the US will get through. I feel like they'll still get through.
Yeah, me too.
Here's what about you?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be hard for the US though, because I think that Iran historically over the years has been a tougher side than expected to be. You saw against Argentina, Messi had a score right at the end. They put up a fight against Portugal, saving Ronaldo's penalty. I think that something that Iran likes to do, which I don't know if you guys ever watch Iran, is they just park it from the beginning, and it's so hard to score against them for some reason. They have no class whatsoever. Their quality is awful, but they just somehow get it done and always make the World Cup recently.
Taremi bicycle kick incoming.
Yeah. I still think I don't know. I really want to say Iran second, but I also know that the US is better than a couple years ago. I'm gonna say US second, but it's gonna be close. I think Iran will make it tough for them for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if Iran went through.
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I agree with that. Group C. We'll just get out of the way. Argentina's finishing top of that group. I think we'll all agree with that. But now, who's going to finish second in that group? Will it be Saudi Arabia? Will it be Mexico? Or will it be Poland?
Yeah, so for me, obviously Argentina first. I mean, I think they'll get 9 out of 9, easy. And I think that World Cups have patterns, and Mexico usually likes to get out of the group and then go out at the round of 16. So I think that Mexico are going to go through.
I agree. Although Mexico has been very, very, very poor. They've
Of course,
been horrific
course.
in the past few years. Horrific.
And then they'll beat Germany at the World Cup. So
I feel like they'll just get in over Poland. It will be close. Poland's not going to make it easy, but I feel like they'll just get in over Poland. Serious, what do you think?
Yeah, Mexico.
All right.
It'll be tough.
Next, Group D. Well, you want to know what's funny? 3 of those teams in that group were in the same group as World Cup 2018. France, Australia, Denmark. I think they're in the same group last World Cup. And for me, France will probably just edge it out. We'll get first. And then Denmark very, very close in second. But I would not be surprised if Denmark got first and France got second. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'll probably just say France will just edge out Denmark for first. And Denmark will get second. What are you guys saying?
yeah, I would go for the same.
What do you think, Sears?
Yeah, I mean, touch me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I think Denmark did go far in the Euros. They got beaten by England, right?
That's correct. Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want them to get first because then France is gonna have to play Argentina. But I think they
What a
very well.
game that will be, though. Oh my word.
Yeah, I'm gonna go France, Denmark, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get first.
Group E now. I feel like the top 2 of this group, I think, is probably self-decided, but who's gonna come in first? Jose, will your boys get first in this group, or will it be Germany to top this group against Spain?
Statistically, we've done very well against Germany. There was that 6-0 a couple years ago. We beat them sometime recently that I'm forgetting right now. I think that we'll do all right. I'd fancy us to get to the quarterfinals at least. I would say we finish first. Germany would finish second, but it would be hard. I think it's going to be hard game against Japan and against Costa Rica as well, because they're both Costa Rica. I know are a very good defensive side, and Japan are no easy opponent either.
I feel like both sides, Spain and Germany, share similar struggles. I feel like both are going to struggle to score goals. Like when you look at their strikers in
For
that
me,
sense.
Germany. For me, it's a bit different. Germany, I don't feel like Germany know their best system yet. I think that they're right now they're just playing the what's his name, the coach, Hansi Flick, the Hansi Flick 4-2-3-1 like Bayern. But I'm not sure if it exactly suits them to the best of their abilities. I think that they are struggling to score goals. They have no real striker. We have a striker, but it's Morata, so we probably basically share the same problem as them. But I mean, yeah, I would say we're similar, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just to make Jose happy, I'll say Spain. I'll say Spain in first, and then Germany in second, just to make Jose happy. Sears, what about you?
I'm gonna go Germany first, Japan second.
Well, I could see a very clear reason why Sears would go for that prediction.
And then I want everyone to clip this and then come back to it and send it to Jose once it actually happens.
Group F. I'll say Belgium finishes first. I actually do like what I see from Belgium. But Croatia is very close behind, and they'll finish in second. Serious Jose, thoughts on that?
I have Croatia in first, Belgium in second.
Serious, what about you?
I have Belgium in first and Morocco in second.
Why Morocco? That that's highly intriguing. Why Morocco?
I think they have some players that can surprise you. I think they have Ziyech, and I think that he's finally going to be able to
Have
do
you heard
well.
the thing on Hakim Ziyech about the national team coach of Morocco, that he will not play for Morocco when that coach is playing? He's
Well, he got picked, so I think he's going to play.
oh,
And
you
I
got
think he's-
picked.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they do have some good players. Enesiri up front.
They have
has
Hakimi too.
been good. What?
They have Hakimi as well.
Yeah, Hakimi, and then they had the and Mazraoui as well.
Yeah, so I think they're
Yeah,
going to do. What the heck?
Yeah, they do have good players. I don't question that.
What the heck?
How do I get rid of that?
Premier League primetime does not condone what's on as displayed.
I do condone it though. Premier League primetime may not, but I do.
We do not find that acceptable here. Anyways, I feel like Belgium just have a lot of good young players coming through at the moment. Like you see Onana, you see, I'm not sure how old Trossard is, but he's definitely not old. Yuri Tielemans is basically like you could say more of like a veteran now in regards to experience in that team. There's something about this Belgium team that I like better than the one that I saw in 2018.
No way. No way are they better than the 2018 team.
No, I'm not saying that they're better. I'm just saying there's just something about this Belgium side that appeals to me more, that I like better than the Belgium of 2018.
Well,
Even though
Dave,
that Belgium was unbelievable. That was a brilliant Belgium side.
The
I
biggest
think
problem
that
with Belgium
have-
now. Go ahead, Sirius. Go ahead.
No, I think they had Hazard 2018 at the peak of his powers, and now they don't.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would say. But
It's like
also,
life,
but also their
without
defense.
Hazard and Lukaku.
Well, it's also their defense. Like Alderweireld and Vertonghen are nowhere near the players they were in 2018. Also, Company was still playing in 2018.
That's very true. Next, second to last group, Group G. I think we know who will finish top of that group, and I feel like I feel like the three teams here, any one of them could finish second. Any one of them. I feel like the three teams here are neck and neck. All of them.
I would count out Cameroon, but I think
But
that
not by much. But Brazil finishes top. I think we all kind of have that.
yeah, I think Brazil finishes top. I think
I'll
they
say
probably
Switzerland,
yeah.
just because they're traditionally good in these kinds of tournaments.
Yeah,
I'll say Brazil and Switzerland. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, I would say Brazil probably starts with a draw and then wins their next two games, so they get 7 points. And then I would go Serbia. I like their team a lot, and the way they play. But Switzerland will be right up there. Switzerland always turn up in a World Cup. I think they'll be unlucky to go out.
Especially Granit Xhaka always turns up for Switzerland.
Yeah.
Serious, who's your pick for second place? Since Brazil will assume will get first place in this group, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Brazil, Switzerland. I think that even when Xhaka played bad on Arsenal, he was playing amazingly on Switzerland, and now that he's playing amazing on Arsenal, imagine what he's gonna be with Switzerland. So yeah.
It's a great point. And last but not least, to end the show, Group H. I feel like it's going to be Portugal and Uruguay. For me, I'm going to say Uruguay's going to finish top of that group. I feel like Uruguay could finish top of that group.
I completely agree with that.
That's the whole.
And that's my prediction. I predict they will finish top of that group.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I had Uruguay going so far in the tournament, is because if they get second, they'll play Brazil, which means that they'll probably go out. But if they get first, then they'll play a team from the other group. So I think that Uruguay will be first.
Speaking of Portugal, as much as I like to shite on him, don't count out Penaldo. I think he'll score a couple goals.
No, I'm not counting out Penaldo.
So are we all saying Uruguay and Portugal in that order?
Yeah.
Yes.
And there you have it. There is season 3, episode 4, Premier League Primetime. Stick around. We will be back with you after the World Cup. Thank you so much for your time watching this. And let us know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on the topics that have been in store in this feature of Premier League Primetime in the comments down below. Smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out our other platforms on Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and wherever you are watching this in the world. We hope you have an absolutely fantastic day / evening.